Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Kerry McCauley. Welcome to my channel. And today we got a special guest. I don't do guests too often here, but I have Michael McDonald with me. He's the pilot who just had to ditch in the Sea of Cortez, I believe, just a couple days ago. And as a ferry pilot, I've been doing this for 30 years, 30 plus years. And ditching in the ocean has always been one of my big, I'm not going to say fears, although it really should be one of my biggest fears, concerns. I analyze it, I think about it, and what I could do to survive a ditching. Because the company I worked for, Orient Air, back in the 90s, we lost three pilots and two to ditching, and they did not survive. So it's always been right there up on my list of things to be concerned with. But hey, we got a guy here who actually lived through ditching just the other day, not in the North Atlantic, so we didn't have to dodge icebergs, but it sounded like a lot more pleasant environment. So, Mike, hey, thanks for coming on and tell me a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you were doing down there. Sounds like a paying gig, so you can't argue with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
well,
Mexico.
thanks for having me and letting me tell my story. I didn't expect I'd be here, a week ago, um, telling this kind of story, but here we are. I really feel that the only reason I survived it is because of training and just mental preparation, flying over water on a regular basis, always looking for boats, always thinking, what would I do if? You know, I live in the British Columbia area of Western Canada. You call it the Pacific Northwest of the United States. And we have a lot of water, a lot of little islands, a lot of marine traffic. Out here in the Sea of Cortez, there are a lot of little tour boats that are taking people out to see whales and whatnot. And that wasn't the case that day because the water was just a little bit too choppy. There were rolling seas. At the time of the incident, it was about 8 feet. Over the course of the 2 hours that we were bobbing in the water, it came and went. You'd have moments of calm, and then moments of heavy winds and big swells and white caps splashing us in the face. Rather unpleasant, but here we are.
Oh man, that sounds, at least the water's relatively warm, but those wave conditions are something that I'm always concerned with because if you have to set down 8 foot waves are definitely no joke, but they can get a lot higher too. And some of
Mhm.
those that's not survivable. And I really like the fact that you've been trained or picked up along the way to look for boats. I mean, that's a key thing that a lot of guys flying over the water, they never think of. I mean, when I was doing ocean crossings in North Atlantic, if I ever saw a boat, I'd mark it on my GPS just in case I had to ditch. At least I had some direction to go. So too bad there weren't any boats that day. So,
Right.
so what were you doing down there?
Well, I have a marine biologist with me, and we're looking for wildlife. We're flying rather low, 1,500 feet above the water, 110 knots average speed. And yeah, we're looking for big sea life, trying to figure out what species is there and what direction they're headed and what kind of numbers they are. And we keep tabs on that. And yeah, it's just a regular gig. It's my first paying gig. I also fly with something called the Air Cadet program up in Canada, where we teach young people how to fly gliders and power aircraft. And that's where I get a lot of my annual training refresher course. Every spring, we have a spring briefing, and we talk about uh, how to ditch, uh, how to land under every emergency condition that they can think of, usually just engine fires or engine out, either on takeoff or at cruise, what to do. So those procedures are on my mind on a regular basis for a training aspect. Every morning before we go flying with that program, we brief a safety point and we have a verbal mock emergency. What would you do if engine fire in your left wing? How are you gonna deal with that? And every day that we do that, they come up with something else out of the book, and we have to have it memorized in the correct order. We don't talk about ditching very often because we're usually over land when we're flying, but it is something that we do on an annual basis. Take a look at. So I feel that the fact that it's always in the back of my mind, and the fact that I fly over water on a regular basis in British Columbia, um, I think I was just a little bit more prepared than somebody who is in the interior of the country that doesn't see water very often. So I think that's one of the keys that helped save our lives.
Awesome. And first of all, I love your training program. Scenario-based emergency training is something nobody does. I've never even heard of anybody doing what you do. I do it in my head. I've been doing that for years. What would I do if? But that sounds like fantastic training that you guys are doing. Hats off to you for that. Do you think that helped you in that case? Because you know, responding to emergencies is a learned skill. And if you don't ever have any or you don't practice any, you're going to have that really big startle factor and you're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening." If you practice what ifs all the time, that's probably giving you a huge leg up.
Absolutely. And I actually was reviewing the incident earlier today on my ForeFlight app, looking at the data of the descent, and it looked like I hit spot on 80 miles per hour, which is what we train for our glide speed, and
Oh, perfect.
it worked out perfectly. I don't know if I did that on purpose. Looking back, it was a week ago today that it happened, and I had basically a minute and a half to react. It was a 3 minute descent. The first minute and a half was troubleshooting the problem with the engine, trying to fix it. The second half, the last minute and a half, was preparing because I know we are going to hit the water. Time to give up on trying to fix it. Just prepare to impact. That's it.
Oh, perfect. First, one question. Are you a glider pilot?
No, I'm too fat.
Oh,
I'm too heavy. I don't fit into a glider. I need an instructor because I don't
that's a
have a.
bummer.
Then I can't find anybody who's 92 pounds with a license in that particular model of an glider. I'd
Okay,
love to.
because I thought when you're talking, you guys train gliders too. I was gonna say that's cheating because glider pilots
Oh,
innately know to keep their speed up and don't
that's right.
stall the plane.
That's great.
Um, so that even thinking about that probably helped me. But good on you and not stalling the plane. That's the big thing that you want to do. So take us through the thing. You're tooling around at 1,500 feet looking for fish, big
Yep.
fish hopefully, and your great day was suddenly spoiled by what?
Silence. The engine went silent. The propeller continued to spin as it windmilled, but there was no more power coming from that engine at all. I immediately turned 90 degrees to my left because I lifted my head and looked at the island ahead of us was about 10 miles, and I looked 90 degrees to my left, and it was about 6 miles. Well, I know that now, but I could tell which one was closer at the time. So I tried to be as efficient as I could so I didn't lose altitude or speed. And I just made a nice, probably a very coordinated turn to my left. And as I came out of it, I was still at 1,500 and we were slowing down. And I looked down at the fuel selector and it was on both. And I thought, well, it's on both. So what do I do now? And just as I leaned down to reach it, the engine sputtered again. It just started up. There was no power coming from it, but it started for a moment. And then it stopped. It was maybe 2-3 seconds. So I cycled the selector left, right, back to both. Nothing going on there. I pumped the throttle a couple times. I gave it a shot of primer. The mixture, because we're only at 1,500 feet, the mixture wasn't pulled out very far anyway. I shoved that in that 1 centimeter or whatever it was. We usually run very rich of peak. We want the engine to last longer so that they're dumping more fuel into it and keeping it cool. So I really don't know the cause of it. We'll never know the absolute cause of it, but it didn't feel like a fuel starvation situation where you get um, that bubbling sound of the
Buttering.
buttering. That didn't occur at all. It just went dead, came alive, and went dead again. It was almost like a double mag failure. But I would hate to hazard a guess and say that that's what it was because I don't know. So
Yeah, that's an odd one. The only time I've heard of that happening in a 182 is one of my 182s, and the carburetor had come apart, a bolt had come off, and that choked off all fuel because yeah, double mag failure is kind of unusual,
mhm.
and I had one go on me, a whole cylinder go. That was pretty rough, but that's,
I
like
had
you
that.
say, we'll probably never know.
I had another
But
engine failure 2 months ago.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I
what
dead
was that?
sticked it my local airport in Canada. So, yeah.
Well, you were current then. Heck.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, I just need 18 more solos to get my glider license, is what my friends are telling me. So,
Awesome. Well, it
yeah.
sounds like, great job on the turn. You didn't lose any speed or altitude, did a nice job pointing that way. Engine ain't coming up. So what are you setting up for? What happened?
So yeah, I'm looking at the shoreline, realizing it's very far away. We're not going to make it. Once I went through my troubleshooting and gave up on that, I that we are going in the water. She thought I was playing some sick joke on her, but she soon realized when I was dead serious that this is happening, and I was getting busy in the cockpit, that she wasn't having a good time. So I reached behind me, grabbed a pillow, gave her the pillow to cover her face. We'd already briefed all of this before. She knew what to do. She covered her face, tightened our harnesses, opened both of our doors for the impact because we didn't want to be locked in an airplane as sinking. So that was pretty much it. I saw the water coming up, and I was following basically like cornrows. I was looking straight down cornrows, the troughs of the waves, the big swells. And I thought, if I land on the downside, just behind the peak, it'll be more of a cushion than hitting it as it's coming up. So quickly tried to realize that's what I have to do. I had a 90-degree crosswind. It was probably about 12 knots. So it wasn't a headwind, not a tailwind. I'm not slowing down with the favor of the wind. But as we got closer to that water, I dropped my flaps all the way, and I started pulling up, and I could feel it. And just the stall horn, just as we were at the crest, and it felt like a sea monster came up and grabbed us and pulled us into the water. And it threw us forward. We not cartwheeled, I'm sorry. We flipped nosed over, and we were upside down in the water. I got a mouthful of seawater, swallowed quite a bit. Um, Popped off my seatbelt and bailed out the door like kind of a backward somersault out the side door, and that put me, I don't know, 4 5 feet away from the airplane as I kind of saw the wing bobbing up and down and kind of thrashing against me. And as I turned, I could see my partner. She was in the water, and the chair was face down in the water, and her head was where the headrest is, and the water was up to her chin. And she says, "I can't get out. I can't get out." So I tried turning and swimming towards her, and I just yelled, "Unbuckle, unbuckle, unbuckle!" And as soon as I said that, she popped out and rolled out my door. So now we're bobbing in the water beside an airplane, and there's debris everywhere. Can of WD-40 and my log books and uh, some
Save the
gloves.
log books.
Oh, I did. I,
Awesome.
I I watched the journey log
You're
float
a
away,
real
but that
pilot.
was yeah.
Hey,
Oh, yeah.
listen to those logbooks.
I got to prove my time here. So, but I grabbed her, and we kind of held there. We embraced for a moment, and she was really not in good shape mentally. Sorry, not mentally, just emotionally. It was very hard for her. So I looked at. We were both wearing flotation vests, inflatable. So I was looking for the yellow tab to pull, and I couldn't see it. And I realized that I had to undo the Velcro because somebody had tucked it up inside, because I guess it was dangling and getting in the way and whatnot. So somebody shoved it up inside. So I undid the Velcro and I pulled on it, and it popped open. It was a beautiful sight to see, pretty interesting to watch. And then I turned to my own, and I was like, okay, let's what's going on? It's not working. So I had to unfurl the entire Velcro on both sides, big thick Velcro straps, and found the little red tube, and I self-inflated, and then that was it. We were good to float for the next couple hours. But just as soon as we figured that out, I turned to the airplane, and I could see it was coming up out of the water. The tail boom, the rudder was vertical, and I thought, okay, last chance to get the raft. So I swam maybe 5 or 6 feet back to the tail boom, and I reached for the door, which was underwater, the cargo latch. And just as I reached it, it lawn darted into the water, and it was gone for good. So that's it. That was the end of that airplane.
Wow. Well, good job getting it down. I mean, yeah, it sounds like you did it perfect. Going along the swells is usually considered the right thing to do. The other option is go into the wind and try to time it with hit,
Mhm.
against the swells. But it's great if you hit the backhand and ski down it. But if you hit that rising swell, that could hurt a lot. So
That's
no, I think you made
huge.
the right choice there for sure. You did a couple things that I really have to again commend you on that most people don't think of. Number one is putting your flaps down before you went in. Everybody I see do emergency landings, they never remember to put their flaps down. They come in on a no flap landing, so they're hitting a lot harder. Number two, you remember to crack the doors. That's nobody ever also remembers that. I just did a brief safety briefing for our skydiving school that I work at, and remembered like if we're ever going down, crack those doors. Because yeah, the plane can deform and jam the doors. So excellent job. But the thing that really sticks out is, did you have that pillow there specifically for that reason?
That's exactly why they have the pillow there. Yep.
Does that 182 have shoulder harnesses?
It did, yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It had an inertia reel on both on the front.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, but still, I often thought of that. I'll take my 182 or my 206 camping. I don't have harnesses on mine; they're on the list, but makes it kind of gets in the way when we're skydiving. But I'd always thought of, boy, if I had something like a pillow to put in front of mine or my passenger's face right at the end, might really save you from eating the instrument panel, which is what
Sure.
really kills a lot of people, knocks them out. You might be able to get out of the plane, but if you're unconscious,
That's it. Yeah.
did the windshield break
I
on
have a
those?
feeling it did. To be honest, as the water rushed in, I saw the rush of water come in, but I don't know the source of it. I don't know if it came in from the side or if it came in from directly ahead. Uh, I
Came
really
in
don't.
really, did it come in really hard?
It rushed in like
I
full.
I bet you
I,
broke your windshield.
yeah,
I I've read a story of another woman who ditched a 182 and it imploded the windshield. It's like because all of a sudden it's not like you land and there's tons
yeah.
of air and you're like, okay, now let's get out. It's like, nope, it's
Yeah.
immediate immersion.
Well, we were
But
at 61 knots, and for kilometers per hour, that's 113 kilometers per hour, right?
yeah,
61 knots is pretty fast. A sudden stop for that windshield, it will probably give out.
yeah. And was the raft in the behind the rear seats?
No, it was in the cargo area.
Oh,
So, yeah.
did you have the rear seats in the plane?
Yeah, we had rear seats in the plane.
Oh, so
So,
it was back there. Yeah.
yeah, there was discussion a long time ago as to what's the best location. If it's right behind the seat, it could become a projectile.
Yeah.
So if it's in the back, you might not reach it in time because that's the case. If I could, not if I could, but if I had to do it again, not if I could do it again, but if I had to do it again, perhaps I would try to get myself or somebody else to throw it into the water right before impact, throw it out the window, out the door,
Yeah.
and then it's within a few hundred feet.
I'd always thought for myself, normally I'm by myself and I have everything that I want to get out of the plane right next to me. And if I'm wearing a survival suit, the stuff that I really want, like my laser for my signal laser, my EPIRB, my handheld, that all goes inside my survival suit. Obviously, you guys didn't have that. But I always was thinking, I never had to do it, that I'd have that raft in my hand because in the
Mhm.
North Atlantic, if I get out of there without my raft, I might as well not bother,
That's
because
right.
I'm probably 10, 15, 20 hours from rescue versus a couple. So, but
That's right.
it's always hard because if the passenger has it here, you might not be able to flare all the way because it'll be in the way of the yoke
Mm-hmm.
on who knows. So,
Right.
but you ended up without it.
We
And then
ended
what
up with.
happened?
Yep. Pardon me.
So,
So then what happened? The airplane disappeared. Some of the debris that was floating around, I thought, okay, maybe something here will help us. Let's start looking at these things. I grabbed my helmet bag, my flight bag, which used to have all my stuff in it. It floated and everything floated out of it. My logbooks, my military gloves. I'll have to pay for those. Damn it. Um, but we found a two-way radio, a marine radio. It was floating nearby. We were well out of range, but when the ship that was coming to look for us was finally within range, once we could see it, we were bobbing up and down on the tops of the apexes of these big swells, and I could see a couple miles. Oh, there's the ship, and we used the radio and said, at your 11 o'clock, 2 miles. At your 1 o'clock, 1 mile. We just kept directing them. They zigzag until they saw us, and then they came beeline for us.
Kind of a
So
handy thing to have.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was on a marine frequency rather than an aviation frequency, and that's what helped. But really, the key to them knowing that we were in the water in the first place was something called spider tracks. I'm not sure if you know what spider tracks is.
Mhm.
It sits on top of the dash. It's got an antenna, and the company we work for, they monitor where we are, how fast we're going, what direction, what altitude, everything. It's just like air traffic control, what they see on their screen. And when it came time to head into the water, my passenger pushed the button, and that sent the signal, and I guess their screen started flashing red. Problem, problem, problem. And within 4 minutes of being in the water, my phone started ringing 3 feet under the water line in my pocket on my hip, and I very carefully pulled my phone out and answered the call, and the lady in the office, and I could hear her talking in the background. It wasn't a good. It didn't sound like a good connection. So I just started talking. I said, "We're in the water. We're in the water. We're 7 miles east of Punta Arena, 10 miles southeast of Isla Soralvo." Uh, and then I listened, and it clear as a bell. There, she says, "Rescue. I'm already talking to rescue." Oh, perfect. Well, nothing to worry about now. But then my phone went dead, and that was it for the next 2 hours.
Waiting to get rescued. Let's see. Might be a while.
So we were drifting quite rapidly to the south because of the current. Uh, it was a fast current, heavy winds, and no matter how hard we were going to swim to that shore, it wasn't going to happen. But that kept our minds busy. Let's find a goal. Let's pretend to reach that goal because that is improving our situation. So yeah, I would swim until I got tired. About half an hour the first time, and I was pushing her, and then I'd catch up, and I'd push her, and I'd catch up, so on and so forth. She was carrying all the stuff. We found a water bottle with fresh water in it, or her metal thermos, so that was good. Um, yeah, it worked out. It's exactly the situation you want after something like that.
Wow, that you got a lucky horseshoe in your back pocket or something. I mean, that's everything. I mean, they knew right where you were immediately. You even got a quick phone call, which is incredible.
Yeah,
And you found some water.
that's right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So what was I mean, were you probably having to spend some of your mental
I I
capacity kind of
surprised
dealing with
myself.
her, helping her along, keeping her calm?
Yeah, I think I surprised myself. That's where I may have mentioned earlier. I found out something about me. Um, I've always known that I've been okay in extremely high stress situations. It's the little things that I freak out about. Maybe I fumble a pencil twice on the ground or something. I'll get really upset. But when it comes to something that really matters, I'm just like a totally different mode. It's like watching somebody else doing it, and there was not really a fear factor. It just I had a mission. I had to fulfill the mission. Let's get out of here. So that was it.
So,
Yeah,
that's 90% of the game right there. Keeping your head about you. It's like if you got time to panic, you got time to do something more productive. So
absolutely.
eh, hats off to you again. This was fantastic. So
My hat was off. I've had that hat since 2009.
nice, nice. And the ship showed up. You got him there on the radio when they picked you up, and
Yeah, it was
back
a
back to shore for margaritas.
almost. It was a scuba diving vessel for like live aboard. You go out for a week and scuba dive in different spots and whatnot. Big beautiful ship, big menacing black thing with the white top, black bottom. and they came and plucked us out of the water. They threw the big traditional old orange lifesaver to us and dragged us to the rear of the boat and pulled us up onto the deck. And as soon as I got onto the deck and it was rolling, it was pitching. Oh my God. I emptied the contents of my stomach for the next 10, 15 minutes. Oh, it was terrible.
You did the pilot community disservice there. Come on now. Although I
I'm an
have
air.
to admit, I, I've been flying and jumping for years. I still get seasick too. It's just something different about it.
I honestly think it was just the amount of water that I ingested. Every once in a while, with a white cap hitting me in the face, it would catch at the wrong time, and I would drink a bit of the water, unfortunately. And when we were out there, there was a couple times that I coughed to the point of gagging, but I couldn't expel it while we were in the water, which is good because that's kind of gross. But yeah, I waited until we got on the ship, and as soon as we were on the back end of that ship, I just leaned overboard and let her rip for a good 10, 15 minutes. And yeah, I thought it cleaned me out until I went inside and sat on the couch, and I looked up across the way, a beam on the ship, and the window, it was doing that. You can see the sky, you can see the ocean, you can see the sky. And it's like, oh, I'm going back outside. So
Yeah, going inside was a mistake. I,
it,
I
it
I don't do well inside either.
yeah.
So one last question about in the water. Was there anything that you wish you'd have had or something, besides what you had? I mean, besides the raft stuff. But when you were actually in the water floating there, were you getting cold even though the water was warm? Anything like that?
I was okay. I prefer the cold over the heat, but my partner, she's rather slight, and you can see that if she was another hour, she may have been hypothermic. I mean, sure, it's warm Mexican waters, but it's still stripping that heat away from your body very quickly.
Sure.
Uh, I don't know Fahrenheit, but 17 Celsius, whatever that is, I think is the temperature of the water. So if your body gets down to 17 degrees Celsius, you're no longer alive. So
Right.
yeah, your body temperature is like 39 or 40. So,
Okay.
but for me, I probably had many, many more hours available before I started getting cold. I don't miss too many meals. So, got
Yeah.
lots of energy.
All right. Well, awesome. Again, it's a great story. I'm really glad everything worked out for you. Thanks for talking to me with this. I'm learning some things and remind me of some good things, but it sounds like you did absolutely everything right and it worked out. So
It did.
fantastic.
I couldn't have asked for a better outcome. It's a very strange thing to say, but I wouldn't wish it on anybody, including myself. But now that I've gone through it, it's a good story to move forward with in my life and know that I've learned something about myself from. So
Heck
yeah,
yeah. You're a member of an exclusive club. Well, good job. That's all I got for you now. I won't keep you any longer. You got, ladies and gentlemen, Mike McDonald, fantastic job ditching in the Sea of Cortez last week, and he's here to tell about it. And he brought his passenger back too. So doesn't get any better than that. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you talking to me.
thanks for your time.
All right. And that's all I got for now, everybody. As always, don't forget you keep your speed up, right, Mike?
That's it.
Keep your speed up. All right. See ya. Thanks, Mike.
Cheers.